How many miles does your car have? And how many are you hoping it'll last? Here's a reality check. Some Toyotas barely make it to 150,000 and some Fords pass 500,000. So what's the difference? It usually comes down to a few smart habits that lazy drivers ignore. Here are 7 extremely simple habits that can prevent expensive breakdowns and add at least 100,000 miles to any car, without repairs or mods. So here's the real question. How many of these 7 habits are you already doing? Let me know in the comments. Number 1. Wash your car more than twice a year. Let's be honest, for most people, washing the car is more about aesthetics than longevity. You see a layer of dust or bird droppings, and you give it a rinse to make it look good again. But the truth is, regular washing is one of the most underrated ways to extend the life of your vehicle. Not just the paint, but the body, frame, and even parts underneath. Every time you drive, especially in wet or snowy weather, your car picks up grime, road salt, and microscopic particles that cling to the surface. Over time, that buildup starts to eat away at the clear coat, then the paint, and eventually exposes the bare metal underneath. And once rust starts, it doesn't stop. It spreads, silently and aggressively. The undercarriage is especially vulnerable. Most people never even look under their car, but that's where road salt, mud, and moisture collect and sit for weeks, sometimes months. That's how entire subframes and brake lines get corroded without warning. So don't skip that undercarriage wash. It's usually a button on the car wash machine, and it's worth every penny. If you're washing at home, you can even get a cheap undercarriage attachment for a pressure washer. A simple car wash is a no-brainer, but the next easy habit has mixed opinions. Number 2. Change your transmission fluid. If the engine is the heart of your car, the transmission is the nervous system. It connects everything: your speed, your engine's power, your wheels, and keeps the whole thing moving smoothly. And just like your engine needs clean oil, your transmission needs clean fluid to function properly. Transmission fluid is responsible for 3 crucial jobs: lubrication, hydraulic pressure, and cooling. It makes sure all the gears shift smoothly, prevents metal-on-metal wear, and absorbs the intense heat that builds up inside your transmission, especially during stop-and-go traffic or towing. But here's the catch. Transmission fluid degrades over time. It gets dirty, it breaks down from heat, and its ability to lubricate and cool effectively drops. The fluid darkens, the additives wear out, and eventually, it becomes more of a liability than a benefit. That's when problems start: slipping gears, delayed shifts, grinding noises, or worse. And if you ignore it for too long, you're looking at a complete transmission failure. That's one of the most expensive repairs you can face, often costing between $3,000 and $6,000. Now, you'll hear a lot of mixed advice about when to change transmission fluid. Some automakers say it's lifetime fluid, especially in newer cars. But let's break that down. Lifetime doesn't mean forever. It means the expected life of the transmission, which might only be 100,000 to 120,000 miles. If you're trying to get 200,000 plus miles out of your car, that logic doesn't help you. A smarter approach is to change the fluid every 30,000 to 60,000 miles for traditional automatic transmissions. CVTs and dual clutch systems have their own guidelines, so always check the owner's manual. And if you're towing, hauling heavy loads, or driving in hot climates, consider more frequent changes. You'll need to set a reminder for that easy habit, as well as the next one, which is just as easy and important. Number 3. Coolant flush every 5 years or 50,000 miles. Most people think of coolant as that colorful liquid that stops your engine from overheating, and that's true. But what many don't realize is that coolant, also called antifreeze, plays a much bigger role in your engine's long-term health. It doesn't just regulate temperature, it also prevents internal corrosion, keeps metal parts from seizing, and protects components like the radiator, heater core, and water pump. The problem is that coolant has a shelf life. Over time, the protective additives in the fluid break down. The pH balance changes. It becomes acidic. And when that happens, it starts eating away at your cooling system from the inside. That rusty buildup you sometimes see in old radiators? That's what neglected coolant turns into. When coolant goes bad, it's not a slow and graceful decline. It becomes a silent threat. You could end up with clogged coolant passages, overheating, warped cylinder heads, or even a blown head gasket. And once a head gasket fails, you're looking at one of the most labor-intensive and costly repairs in the automotive world. Now, most modern vehicles can go about 5 years or 50,000 miles between coolant flushes, thanks to longer-lasting formulas like Dex Cool and Hote. But that doesn't mean you should forget about it. The key is flushing the old stuff out before it turns toxic. This keeps everything clean, efficient, and corrosion-free. And here's a pro tip. Don't just top off your coolant whenever it's low. Mixing different types, like green with orange, can cause the additives to clash, forming a sludge that actually reduces cooling performance. Stick with what your owner's manual recommends, and don't cheap out with universal, one-size-fits-all coolants. This next one could prevent an expensive disaster with no warning signs. Number 4. Replace the timing belt before it fails. Timing belt failure is one of the few maintenance items that can instantly destroy an otherwise perfectly running engine. No warnings, no weird sounds. It just snaps. And if your engine is an interference design, which many are, that means the pistons and valves crash into each other. You're left with bent valves, damaged pistons, maybe even a cracked head. Translation: total engine teardown. The timing belt is basically the master conductor of your engine. It keeps the camshaft and crankshaft perfectly synchronized so that the valves open and close at just the right moments. If that rhythm gets thrown off even by a fraction of a second, things go very wrong, very fast. Most automakers recommend replacing the timing belt somewhere between 60,000 and 100,000 miles, though some newer models stretch it to 120,000. The catch? There's usually no visual indicator that it's wearing out. It may look fine one day and snap the next. That's why you replace it preventively, not reactively. And it's not just the belt itself. A proper timing belt job also includes the tensioner, idler pulleys, and sometimes even the water pump if it's driven by the same belt. If one of those components fails, it can take the belt down with it. Yes, replacing a timing belt can be pricey, often $500 to $1,000 depending on your car. But stack that up against the cost of an engine rebuild, which can run $3,000 to $5,000 or more, and it becomes a no-brainer. Also worth noting, if your vehicle has a timing chain instead of a belt, you're off the hook, sort of. Chains are more durable and usually last the life of the engine, but they can still stretch or fail, especially if oil changes are neglected. So even then, regular maintenance still matters. Great news! The next item on the list is super cheap, and you can even do it yourself. Number 5. Keep spark plugs fresh. Spark plugs might be small, but they're the ignition heartbeat of your engine. Without them, combustion doesn't happen. Your engine can't fire, power drops, and efficiency goes out the window. But when they're in top shape, everything runs smoother, literally. The job of a spark plug is simple. It creates a small electric arc that ignites the air-fuel mixture in the combustion chamber. This happens thousands of times per minute, with insane precision. But over time, plugs get fouled with carbon deposits, electrode gaps widen, and their firing becomes weaker or delayed. What does that mean for you? Rough starts, poor acceleration, random misfires, wasted fuel, and eventually strain on the ignition coils and catalytic converter, both expensive parts to replace. Most modern spark plugs, especially iridium or platinum types, can last 80,000 to 100,000 miles, but that doesn't mean you should forget about them until the check engine light pops on. If your car is running rough, idling weird, or down on power, worn plugs are often the silent culprit. Even better, replacing spark plugs is one of the most affordable ways to breathe new life into your engine. For under $100, sometimes much less, you can restore smoother starts, better mileage, and a noticeable bump in performance, especially if the old plugs were overdue. And don't just replace one or two, always swap the full set. Also, make sure the new plugs are gapped correctly and torqued to spec. Over-tightening can strip threads, and under-tightening can cause misfires or even blowouts under pressure. If your engine feels like it's lost its spark, chances are it literally has. Fresh plugs help restore that crisp, responsive feel your engine was designed for. It's like giving it a shot of adrenaline without touching anything else. Number 6. Stick to OEM fluids and filters. This is where a lot of people try to save money and end up paying for it later. You walk into a parts store, see 5 brands of oil filters or brake fluid, and the cheapest ones are sitting front and center. Tempting, right? But when it comes to fluids and filters, sticking to OEM recommendations isn't about brand loyalty. It's about engineering. Every fluid in your vehicle, be it oil, transmission fluid, brake fluid, coolant, or even power steering fluid, was carefully chosen by the manufacturer for a reason. Viscosity, additive packages, heat tolerance, chemical makeup, all of it is tailored to work with your engine and its specific tolerances. Using the wrong fluid, even if it fits, can lead to accelerated wear, poor performance, or even outright failure. For example, using a universal transmission fluid in a system that requires a specific low viscosity blend can cause hard shifting or delayed engagement. Wrong coolant types can lead to sludge and corrosion. Even the wrong brake fluid can boil under pressure, causing dangerous fade during hard braking. Same goes for filters. An off-brand oil filter might fit your engine, but if it doesn't have the right filtration media, anti-drainback valve, or pressure relief system, it's doing more harm than good. Your engine could be running oil full of grit and debris, which adds up fast when you're cruising at 3,000 RPM. OEM parts are usually only a few dollars more, but they're tested, validated, and proven to work with your car's systems. You're not guessing, you're replicating what the factory built the car to use. Number 7. Carry out oil nangas. On time, every time. We saved the most obvious and probably most important habit for last. Oil is your engine's lifeblood, and if you don't change it regularly, everything else becomes irrelevant. No matter how good your fluids, how new your plugs are, or how clean your coolant is, dirty oil wrecks engines, period. Motor oil does more than just lubricate. It cools, cleans, seals, and protects. It keeps moving metal parts from grinding themselves into oblivion. But as oil circulates, it picks up contaminants like carbon, metal shavings, and moisture, and eventually becomes less effective at doing its job. When you skip oil changes, you're essentially running your engine with sludge. And once that sludge builds up, it clogs tiny oil passages, starves bearings of lubrication, and bakes onto internal surfaces like tar. Over time, this leads to worn piston rings, knocking, oil burning, and total engine failure. Now, depending on your vehicle and oil type, the interval may vary. Conventional oil usually needs changing every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, while synthetic can go 7,500 to 10,000. But don't just follow the number blindly. Driving conditions matter. Lots of idling, towing, extreme temperatures, you'll want to change it sooner. And yes, the oil filter matters just as much. If you change the oil but leave a gunky old filter in place, you're still circulating dirty oil. Oil changes are simple, cheap, and quick, especially if you do it yourself. But the damage caused by skipping just one or two? That's thousands of dollars in repairs you could have easily avoided. So don't treat oil changes like a chore. Treat them like the easiest, most effective habit for keeping your engine running long past the 100,000-mile mark. Do it on time. Every time. Which one of these habits are you hearing of for the first time? Let us know in the comments. Also, tell us if we missed any other one. See you in the next video.